Hey gents, ladies and gents, I've made a stupid mistake, which is I've done 3 takes in a row. And that's stupid because this video is a personal video. This channel is informative and it's also personal. People who have been along me for the ride know that I make certainly know that I make informative videos about hormone replacement, all sorts of things. And I also do intermittent videos about my life and what's going on in my life, and particularly with my health, because I've had autoimmune encephalitis for 3 years. And if you go and look at my health and rants playlist, you'll see some of the darker times I've been through. Certainly not the darkest times, because I wasn't able to make a video because I was fucking psychotic, like literally psychotic. So I couldn't. What am I gonna do? Sit in front of a camera and chat you up? No, I'm in my bed, like hearing my mom get raped by Satan around the corner, or I go up in the kitchen and I see my dad dead leaning against the counter. Not a good time. It's not a time to sit down and make a video. And antipsychotics did nothing because it was from inflammation. It's not from overstimulation from dopamine activity in the brain, like you commonly see in maybe certain bipolar individuals and people with schizophrenia. That's generally the mechanism of action, right? So you have atypical antipsychotics target sometimes they don't even know how they work and overall, but they target so many different receptors and antagonize so many different receptors that it calms the brain down so much that it brings a person out of psychosis. And in my case, it brought my agitation down, but it did not bring me out of psychosis. So I was in psychosis for an extended period of time, and no thanks to my neurologists who kept me there, because they would not give me corticosteroids or any other sort of immunotherapy. Now, you'll have to bear with me because I'm going to repeat myself a few times here, probably because my memory is shit, and I've done a few other takes, so I don't know what I said then versus what I said now. But this is a personal channel and an educational one. And it's a personal channel in the sense that I'm logging things that happen to me, and but also I'm doing it because I know that people will relate to it. People relate to it on all sorts of levels, right? You don't have to have autoimmune encephalitis to relate to the things that I'm going to. You can have medical trauma. You can have a medical problem. You can have depression. You can have bipolar. You can have schizophrenia. You can have physical disability. You could have emotional dysregulation. You can have all sorts of things that you can relate to me with. And I've related to many other people with. I relate better to people who have gone through something significant in their life that has caused them damage. And so when I'm like recently hot back on Tinder and somebody asks me, what do you do for fun? I'm like, what do you mean fun? I don't do shit for fun. That's not my personality. My personality is not fun. Let's have a conversation. I'm not like, oh, I go drinking on the beach. I don't do that shit anymore. I don't do things for fun. I do things to develop myself as an individual. So people, it's for logging my journey, and you'll see, I don't know if I said this, my health and rants playlist. You can see how things have progressed over time somewhat. And forgot what I was saying, but I'm going to stick with this take. I'm not moving on. The big question of this video, I think, and every time I make a video like this, I always ask, like, what's the purpose of this video? And the purpose of this video is to look back as I'm exiting this autoimmune encephalitis, and I'm going to have sequelae. And sequelae means problems after the disease course. So the inflammation is going to go away, but I've had brain damage. So I'm going to have things like, I really highly doubt this is going to go away. It hasn't gone away or improved even slightly, as the other symptoms have. Visual perceptual disorder, indescribable. I'm not even going to try. It's like 2D, 3D, and looking through water. It's almost impossible to describe. As well as cognitive issues, memory issues, inability to have conversations for longer than probably an hour without completely gassing out and having a hangover the next day. So that's why it's hard to do videos like this for multiple takes. And I know now I'm sacrificing myself a little bit tomorrow by making these videos. And what was he saying? I was talking about sequelae. And I have a huge disconnection from reality. And it feels like I'm on another planet. Like it's like a psychedelic trip, basically, where I can interact with people and I can interact with you, and it looks relatively normal. but I am engaging with you from a different dimension, basically, is what it feels like. It's like DPDR, depersonal derealization disorder, but like on steroids. It's very unsettling. It's almost impossible to get used to. I don't know what my life is going to look like in the future with these problems that I have. And there are many more sleep disturbances, things like that. I don't know how I'm going to get used to that because I haven't been able to get used to it. Is there something with your brain? You know, some people get blind in one eye and they just get used to it over the course of like 6 months. But I can't get used to it. So I'm going to have to find a way to live with that. And I think the best way to live with that is to try to grow as an individual, try to find things that I enjoy doing and distract myself in that way, and make meaningful connections with other people. And I think that last one is the most important one and has been a drive for me as soon as I started feeling better. And there are two things. So I'm on chemotherapy right now, and I have 4 more infusions left. 4 weeks ago, I was in bed in absolute agony. And then 1 week later, I started feeling a little bit better. And then 2 weeks later, I started feeling even better. And then I moved down from my parents' house in northern Idaho to southern Idaho. And I drove a big old U-Haul all the way through town, and we got a bunch of shit, and I moved a bunch of shit, and I wasn't hungover from moving a bunch of furniture, which was crazy because if I tried to lift anything before, I would have a massive hangover like you wouldn't believe. So it was impossible. I couldn't ride my bike. I couldn't go on a run. I couldn't lift weights. I still can't lift weights at all. I mean, the neural drive necessary for the fast twitch muscle fibers like that, I can't do it. My brain can't handle it. But biking, I can handle it. Now I can anyway. Today was the first day I went biking in 3 years. And for 3 years, I was sedentary. I always have moments where I'm like, maybe I should do another take. But again, I'm not going to do another take. And one of the things I talked about in my previous takes that I want to touch on now is, and I think I briefly mentioned this just a moment ago, is what can I gain from what happened to me? And one thing that I never did throughout this whole experience was ask the question, why me? I never asked that question because it's a stupid fucking question. Why not me? You know, why not me? Why not the guy across the street? You know, why the person who's quadriplegic? Why not them? Who has ALS? Why not them? It's a dumb question. You know, like, why are you special? And I think it fits better into and I'm going to start talking about atheism and religion here for a moment, but I think it fits better in the atheistic worldview for the why me, which is why not you? There's no reason. You're all dodging bullets all the time, and I hit one, which is autoimmune encephalitis. And there's no reason why it hit me rather than another individual besides genetic predisposition and an environmental factor. And for people who are going to ask what the environmental factor was, I'm not going to specify what medication it was, but it was an not over-the-counter, it was a prescription medication I was not using for recreational uses that I had a bad reaction to that initiated and sparked this encephalitis. So why not me is the question I would ask back to someone who would say that, you know, why not you? There's no reason why you're more special than anybody else. In the worldview of a Christian, that people get hung up on that. They're like, why does God let suffering happen to people if he loves them, right? God loves everybody. God loves everybody equally. Why do some people suffer more than others? Why do people suffer in general? What's the purpose? And the answer is generally God works in mysterious ways, or it's part of his plan, or more commonly, there's lessons you'll learn from suffering. And my question is, my broader question is for religious people is, why are we going through this middle ground of playing around on earth before we go to the afterlife? Why is it before we're born, we have to go through this shit period and then we're in heaven or whatever? Because you'll ask a Christian a tricky question like, what happens to aborted babies? Do they go to heaven or hell? And that's a tough question, actually, and it's not asked very often. A religious person I've spoken to recently said they would go to heaven. And so then I'd ask the question, why don't we abort all babies? Why don't we skip this intermediate period between when we were born and the afterlife and just go straight to heaven and be in glory with God? So why don't we abort all babies? Because then they can all go to heaven instead of people who end up going to hell. And they have a hard time answering that. And And then there's a question of, oh, okay, well, we're born in sin. That's what Scripture says, and that's the common dogma of religion, is that we're born in sin. And if we're actually truly born in sin, then an aborted baby goes to hell because they haven't had a chance to repent and receive forgiveness from the Father, Heavenly Father, right? So if we're truly born in sin, then a baby who hasn't had the cognition to even acknowledge that there's a God will go to hell, And in the Bible it says, God is revealed basically by nature. So, the question of remote tribes who don't know anything about God or haven't read the Bible, they're also spared in some way that they're going to go to heaven because they haven't been contacted by, the religion at all, which then brings up the question, why spread religion? Because all you're doing is creating the opportunity to people to reject it and go to hell. So it's just stupid in all aspects. And I'm an adamant atheist. I find religion intolerable. It's an intolerable discussion. And it makes me incredibly upset when people try to shoehorn their religion into the intense amount of suffering I've been through. And I don't know if I said it in this video yet. It's been 11 minutes. But the suffering I went through was so bad that my dog, who I love dearly and is my best friend, and I had him since he was a puppy and I raised him, and he's a wonderful creature. He's a beautiful creature. I love him more than almost anything. I would have killed my dog to get out of the amount of pain I was in. It is the same amount of pain that a soldier would give up the position of their allies for and know that they were going to get 20 members of their squadron killed by a mortar strike. It was that bad. It was intense torture. And I have to say the word torture very specifically. I use that word for an exact reason because it was torture. It was equivalent to torture every single day for 3 years. So even if God were real, I wouldn't really like him very much at all. And I think you can imagine why. But this question of what can I gain from what I went through? And then a religious person might say, haha, there you're going, you're learning lessons from the suffering you went through. And I'd say, fuck you, I would have rather not gone through any of that suffering whatsoever, and the suffering I'm going to have to continue to live with for the rest of my life, the sequelae. I would have rather not gone through that at all and learned none of the lessons. Yes, I've learned things by going through this period of my life. Excuse me. But I would have rather not, by a huge fucking margin. I'd be well along my way. I'm almost 30. I'm 28 years old, and my life is being reset to zero. I can't even do anything right now. I can't hold a job down. I can't hold a job down at fucking Qdoba. So, I have to learn lessons, right? I have to learn lessons. Otherwise, it was pointless. Otherwise, the whole goddamn thing was useless. And all I did was suffer for no fucking reason, and I should have killed myself a long time ago. And sometimes I think I should have. And that's just me speaking from the heart. Sometimes I look back and I go, why did I bother? And people kept me alive, right? I don't know if I said this because other takes or whatever, but there's this individual that I was speaking with for a long time, and she kept me going for a long time. She was my thing that aligned me. And hopefully I don't forget, but I had an EEG done, overnight EEG, that showed that I had described by my doctor that I had irritation and damage to my right temporal lobe. And she said that would affect my emotional regulation. So I have emotional dysregulation and also a difficulty in picking up on social cues. So this means that I will have a hard time understanding somebody, and I will misunderstand what they're saying, and I'll respond incorrectly. And that can come across as offensive to somebody. And if I'm not paying attention, very close attention. And it also means that if I get heated, I stay heated for longer, and I get more heated than I should be. So I have to, one of the little lessons I've learned from this is that I have to learn to cope with things like this. And one of the ways that I cope with this is by, and I'm so bad at it. I'm so fucking bad at it because it just happens. I misunderstand somebody and I respond, and then it hurts their feelings, and then the relationship dies. And it's really hard for me to do this, but I try to step back for 45 seconds to a minute. Step out of the room if it's in a conversation, or step back if it's in a text conversation, and really think about what do they mean and what am I about to say. And if I'm heated, I let myself calm down and say, is my response, is my anger response here appropriately leveled to the conversation that's happening? And in most cases, yes, if I am stepping back like that, if I feel like I need to step back, I am misunderstanding something, or I am too angry. And so I need to calm down. I need to analyze what's actually happening, or make a clarifying question. And so that's been a real struggle for me. And it's been something that has destroyed relationships that were so important and near and dear to me. Two particular relationships that were, I grieve because those two relationships were so important to me, and one of them basically crashed and burned because I lost my temper, and another one crashed and burned because I misunderstood what was happening, and but part of me also thinks that there should be grace from the other person to go, okay, this individual has a hard time with their emotional regulation, but I also understand that if I hurt somebody's feelings really bad, even on accident, it's not their responsibility to turn around and take it on the chin and go, hey, I understand you have emotional dysregulation problems, so it's totally fine that you just flared up on me for no fucking reason, or you completely misunderstood what I said even though it was plain English. So I don't expect it, although I'd like it. So that's one of the things that I've had to learn to do, and that's not necessarily like a lesson or whatever. I think, and I'm not going to do any retakes. You guys are just along for the ride on everything I'm saying here. How long has it been? It's been 16 minutes. So the question isn't why did I suffer? It's a dumb question. Especially from an atheistic worldview, it's a dumb question. Everybody suffers to some degree. Some people suffer more than others. And there's no reason why you shouldn't suffer more than another individual. So it's not a why did I suffer, it's what can I learn from this suffering so the suffering itself wasn't meaningless. And I think that's an important thing. I just want to say to you, that's an important thing to do when you're suffering, or when you've gone through suffering, even when you've had a tragic loss of a family member, your daughter died, or, and Mike Tyson, for example, his daughter died when she was like 4 years old, and then just a freak accident on a treadmill, and it's just tragic. And these things that are traumatic to you, of course you need to address. It's extremely important. If you've gone through something traumatic, a rape, a loss of a family member, medical trauma, trauma with a friendship, you need to find yourself a good therapist. And I mean a good therapist. Go through 5 until you find a good therapist. Because I found a good one, and like, he saved my life on occasions. After work, I'm like, man, I need to give you a call. I'm in danger, basically, and so I need to give you a call. And he'd be like, absolutely, give me a phone call. And he'd talk to me for an hour, and he would help me. He would just basically say, hang in there, man. You're gonna make it through. Don't worry, you're gonna make it through to the end. We're gonna see you through to the end here. Just hang on tight, basically. So if you have gone through trauma, so find a therapist and work through the trauma. And I would find a therapist who's efficient who has been practiced in trauma therapy and uses EMDR. I've heard from many people, including my therapist, that how I thought it was whack at first, like bullshit, but how effective EMDR is for trauma therapy. So I just want to make that clear. But I want to ask the question, and again, I've addressed this multiple times, and I haven't come up with an answer yet, which is, what lessons have I learned, or can I learn from the suffering that I went through? And I didn't have an answer when I've had several answers. I've gone through it, but I want to think carefully about this. And I think some of the answers are, one, that this is a funny one. Fun is not a personality. It's not a personality. Fun. I'm fun. Whoa, I do things for fun. That's not a personality. I went on Tinder for the first time, and Tinder's fucking trash. I hate Tinder. Set up a profile, whatever. Match with somebody, and they said, "What do you do for fun?" And I'm like, I don't do shit for fun anymore. I don't float down the river with a floating 6-pack or 24 pack and get wasted in the sun for fun. Or what, I don't do things for fun anymore. I do things to grow myself as an individual, and I do my things to learn. And I am desperate. I want to, more than anything, to work a normal job and to go to school. I can't right now with my cognitive issues and my sleep disorders and all these things that are going on. I'm on chemo and things like this. So I don't do things for fun, and my personality is not fun. I'll see girls on Instagram and all they do is just go to, all over the world, clear blue waters. I don't even know where the fuck they are. They're on a yacht and shit. And all their photos are, I'm doing this for fun. And that makes you the least interesting person in the entire fucking world. Someone who's gone through shit, who has gone through trauma, who has gone through something challenging and has grown from it, is someone I want to be around. And it's are the people that I've been drawn to the most and who have been drawn to me the most. So one thing that I've learned from this is that trauma and complicated problems that you go through life make you a more interesting and attractive individual. And that's not just speaking to me, it's speaking to the people that I know who have been through difficult times and have grown a sense of depth to the personality that makes them an attractive person to be around. Not always in a romantic way, although it can be, but in a way that makes them more interesting and more introspective. And I respect people who introspect. I think it's an important quality in a person, especially in somebody that I would like to marry or date, is someone who's introspective and I hate the word like deep conversation, but somebody who can have a conversation that's more than surface level. I like talking about ideas I like talking about ideas more than things. I don't like talking about your fucking garden. I like talking about God, and I like talking about philosophy and things like that. And medicine. I have a very big passion for medicine, especially men's health, obviously. Another lesson I've learned is endurance through pain, obviously, because I've had to learn to endure through pain. Another thing I've learned is that you see how few lessons there are? You see how few there are for the amount of pain I went through? I have to think really hard on what I could possibly take away from this. A gratitude to not be in immense suffering. And sometimes I wonder, is that the fucking the mark? That's the benchmark for to be grateful for? Is that you're not in immense agonizing suffering? Is the goalpost you're aiming for? Because I'm not in immense gratuitous suffering anymore. I am still suffering, but not to the point where I want to blow my brains out every goddamn morning. And is that just getting over that crest of that? Is that the benchmark for a satisfying life, or for something that you've learned or something like that? I forgot what the fuck I was saying. Lessons I've learned. Help me out, guys. What the fuck did I learn? I've learned to stand up for myself. That's one. I don't put up with other people's shit anymore. I used to be quite a person that people could walk over, and I'm not that person anymore. I stand up for myself, so that's good. I can communicate to other people more clearly what my genuine thoughts are. So even people that I don't know very well, or acquaintances, or people that I just run into at the store, or a cashier or whatever, I'll say actually what's on my mind and not what is polite. Not that I'm being rude, but not just like the polite, pleasantries that you'd say to somebody. I say legitimately what's on my mind. If I have a joke that I think might be funny, I spit it out there. I don't just like hold it back because I'm nervous or awkward. So I'm very forward with the way that I say things. And if I say something to you, I mean it. In most cases. And if I retract it, then I mean it too, So if I've said something and then I'm like, ooh, I really didn't mean that. I try to be as genuine as possible in both directions. So I found that to be a very useful thing for me, I'm extremely genuine. And another thing that I've noticed is that I am much more capable to have one-on-one interactions. So with my friend, for example, me and my brother Adam have a mutual friend, and in a group of three, sometimes when that group splits down to just two, it gets a little awkward because you're not used to having that one-on-one dynamic. It's usually the three-person dynamic. But now when my brother leaves, out of the Discord, or he leaves the room, or I drive with my friend, I used to if we're walking out to the two cars, I'd go with my brother. But now I go with my friend, and I have no problem having that one-on-one interaction with my friend. And that might just be me that's had that problem all my life, but that's completely disappeared. And I think that's just a relative confidence from going through the shit that I've been through, that I don't put up with shit anymore. I say what I think, and I'm not nervous to say what I think, so then I can hang out with my friend and I don't have to put on a mask, and I just say what I think with him, and it's whatever. So I find that hugely beneficial as well. I've also found that it has increased tenfold my desire to learn, and my desire to work, and my desire to build from ground zero, basically. And one of the things that my therapist told me is that when your life is absolutely destroyed to the point that things have gone to zero, you have the opportunity to rebuild your life in the way that you want to. And I think that's extremely important. I mean, you look at my room here. I built this from zero. I didn't have anything. I didn't have all this shit. I built a place that is a safe space for me in my room that I can feel comfortable in, and that feels cozy, and that I like. And that's just the bare minimum, right? Jordan Peterson, clean up your room. Maybe you can make it beautiful. But that's where it starts, right? It really does. Now, Jordan Peterson's right on that. And I think Jordan Peterson's gone way off the rails, but he's right on that, where it's like your bedroom is the core of who you are. That's where you start. It's where you wake up in the morning, and then everything else expands from that. So I start with my room, and I expand from that. So I've made this, and you can't see everything in here, but I've made my room as pleasant as humanly possible, and I'll keep adding things to my room to make it even more pleasant. And then I'll branch out from there. I will find work. I will eventually, my cognition will improve over time, and maybe I'll be able to use a stimulant at some point, and I will find work, and I'll be able to work a job, maybe something I'm really passionate in, and maybe for an organization that relates to autoimmune conditions. So I'll find work, and then through work, I might find a girl that I really like, and then maybe we start dating, and then maybe actually have a wife. And so these are the things that seem impossible to me right now, because I'm at ground zero. All I have is my bedroom. That's it. I don't have anything else. I went on a bike ride for the first time today in 3 years. I don't know if I said this already, but first time in 3 years, which was it was exciting for me. It's a miracle that I could do that. And so those are the two things: is one, my bedroom, and two, I could go on a bike ride. And those are tiny little things. And slowly my life is going to expand, and and this is something I need to recognize, is that I'm going to experience life in a way that nobody else, or very few people, get to experience life again, which is I'm being reborn. I am a new person. I'm not the person I was before. I may have lost a little bit of my sense of humor. I may have lost a little bit of my personality and spunk. But what I gained back is a massive depth in my personality that was lacking before. And I also get to be reborn into this world. So I get to experience biking. I go on a 1 mile bike ride, and it's a huge joy for me. And as things expand, I'll be able to work, and I'm going to love making my own money. Because I'm not making money right now. I'm taking money from my brother, because we accumulated so much money together, but it's mostly his money, so he's paying me. And I don't like that. I want to make my own money, and I want to go to school. And so things are going to expand and expand and expand. And these things that seem like impossibilities, like the moment I'm in right now seemed like an impossibility in the past. By a huge margin, I never thought I was going to fucking make it. But this is making it, as far as I'm concerned. And so I thought that was impossible, and it seems like now I'm like, how am I going to find a girlfriend or a wife? Because I'm reaching 30, and I that's something I really desire, is finding someone to fall in love with, basically. And but that I have to sit back and go, that's going to happen. I'm going to find somebody that I can really relate to and be a partner with, and we can be a good team, and they'll understand where I've come from, and I understand where they come from. and will truly love each other. And that's something that really I want more than anything. And so like starting from ground zero is hard because that's my ultimate goal, is to find that partner that I can really be with and be a teammate with. And it's like probably like 12 steps away from where I'm at now, bedroom, house, exercise on my bike a little bit, wean off of all my medications, possibly, then get a job that I can work part-time, and then start working full-time, and then maybe go to school, and then maybe I meet my girlfriend at school, and then I get a wife. So many steps, but every single step that I make, if I were able to make it onto college campus in the next year, if I stepped foot on campus, I would cry tears of joy. So I get to enjoy life in a way that nobody else will, because I'm different. I'm myself. I'm different than everybody else. So I can say that I'm going to be able to enjoy life in a way that nobody else will. That's just how it is. So maybe that's something to look forward to, and maybe that's a lesson, probably the biggest lesson to learn there. So I think the two things you can learn through suffering, and I know this has been a 30 fucking minute video, is you can either ask the question, why me, or you can say, I'm going to take the hero's journey and figure out what I can learn from this. Not only solve my problem, and my problem was a very, very deep and difficult problem, and 10 neurologists it took to get treated in 3 years, over the course of 3 years, while I was in immense pain and nobody was helping me. Nobody. I mean, one girl was giving me some advice, but nobody was actually planning my appointments or anything like that. So I've literally, in psychosis, I had to call doctors and make appointments and stuff like that, and travel. And it was literally a waking nightmare. So depth of personality, I forgot what the fuck I was talking about. Shit. There's going to be a nice, like, fucking conclusion with a tied up bow there. Fuck. The two major lessons I've learned. One is depth of personality. My personality has more depth now. I'm a more interesting person to talk to than I was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I was a nobody. I didn't do anything. I edited videos. I had everything you'd want. I could work from home for $7K a month. I could buy whatever the fuck I wanted. I could go to the gym. I could ride my bike. I could go golfing. I didn't have a timetable. I could do whatever the fuck I want. Was I an interesting person? No, not at all. Did I have a good sense of humor, and was I good to banter with and good to be around? Sure. But was I super interesting? No. And I think I'm a much more interesting person to be around now and have conversations with than I would have been in the past. And I've also, one thing I want to touch on is gain a deep sense of empathy for other individuals. So that's been important for me, I think, is to relate to other people and have a deep sense of empathy for other people and be able to delineate between people, because I still really don't like people in general. I think people aren't good in general, and they're either not good or they're stupid. And it sounds cocky, but it's the way it is. Half of all people are dumber than average, and I'm certainly more intelligent socially than the average individual. So that means more than half of all people are dumber than me, which means that more than half of all people I run into have a lower social IQ than I do. So it's impossible to have a conversation with them without wanting to blow my brains out. But for people who deserve empathy and respect, I have a much deeper and wider capability to show them empathy and respect. And I have more depth of my own personality. And I think you get the gist of the rest of it, because I fucking forgot what I was talking about. But yeah. Okay. I guess that's the update. I think the landmark for today is I rode my bike. That's big for me. That means I'm going in the right direction, and this chemotherapy's working. So I'm gonna have some problems, and I'm still suffering, but I'm not suffering like I was, and I'm going in the right direction. Things are looking up. I'm on the upswing. I have to remind myself of that, because sometimes I really don't feel good. And I feel like my outcome is grim. But then I think, maybe one day I'll get a job. Maybe one day I'll go to school. Maybe one day I'll get a wife. Maybe one day I'll even have kids. Find a way to have kids. and my life will become fulfilling again, and in a way that is different but still good. And so I can look forward to that. Was it worth the suffering? No. It wasn't worth it. So for somebody who's, a religious person who says God's teaching you a lesson through suffering, and you got to make your forgiveness with God, make peace with God, no. It was not worth the suffering. It wasn't. Unless something dramatic happens where I meet the love of my life through the pain that I went through or something like that. And that makes it worth it. As of now, absolutely not. There's no, I couldn't imagine anything that would make it worth going through what I went through. Again, I may have said this already, but sometimes I wish I took my own life and that I was done, because I'm exhausted. I really am tired. And sometimes I really wish I took my own life and that everything was over with. But I didn't, and I've made it this far, and it's sunk in cost fallacy, but I made it this far, so I have to keep going and see. It's always been a keep going and see what happens. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going and see what happens. I'm starting from zero. I have no idea what the fuck's going to happen. No idea. But I'm going to keep going and see what happens. And that's going to be my mantra. And I think, I don't have any tattoos, but what is that saying in Japanese? You'll have to bear with me for a second. Maybe I can find it on my phone. But I don't have any tattoos. But one tattoo, and it seems stupid to get it in fuck. I'm so sorry. Bear with me for just a second. God damn it. Da, 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 da. I'm not gonna cut out this part at all. Skip forward 10 seconds. Skip forward 10 seconds. Skip forward. Okay. Shikata ga nai is a Japanese phrase that means learning to let go. And that's something that I've tried to hold on to this whole time, ironically hold on to, is this idea of just let go. Just let go of what's happening, especially once I've reached the point of chemotherapy and I've had all these fears of, is it going to work? What's going to happen with my brain? What's going to happen? It's all up here. Is just let go and see what happens. And so I've never gotten a tattoo, but that's something I want to get on my body and I'm like, I have to probably put something around it, because just having Japanese characters on the back of your arm is kind of gay. Like, it's like everybody has, Japanese characters on their arm that nobody fucking understands. But if I just spell it out in English, it's going to look really fucking stupid. So it's going to be Japanese characters with something around it. But as a reminder of to just let go, because some things are out of your control and you need to just let them happen. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let go of things I can't control in my life, and take control of the things I can control, and let my life unfold in a natural way, instead of trying to grapple with things that I can't control. And I think that was one of the first things I said to my therapist way back in the day was, I don't bother with asking why me, because that's like wrestling with a slippery demon. You're never going to get your hands on it. You're never going to get an answer as to why me. So I don't even bother. I just let go. And I let that demon go a long time ago. So just let go. That's what I'm going to put on my body at some point. Okay. I think that's enough. Maybe I've proven that I'm not an interesting person. Maybe that's all talk. But as you can see, I want to linger a little bit, because it's a little cathartic to me to talk about these things. But I don't think there's much more to talk about at this point in time. I appreciate the people who follow me. This will never be, it just won't be. This YouTube channel won't be an income stream for me. I make $50 a month off of YouTube. And I've been working on it for 4 years. So it's just not happening. Like More Plates, More Dates rode the SARM's wave to the top. I'm not riding a wave to the top. I'm just giving out information that I think is useful. And how-to videos only get you so far. So my channel's not going to blow up. And that's why I make these personal videos, because fuck it. I can. Fuck you, I can do whatever the fuck I want. Anyway, I hope that was helpful in some way, and in some way that you can relate, in some way you could take a lesson from that. And thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it. I doubt many people made it here to the end, but if you did, God bless you. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.